He must know that I'm in the dog fight with him. I'm next to him side by side. We have a bond that's unbreakable. I'm gonna show you the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly. Transparency is everything. When I learn, you learn.
That's fire.
What would I say? What would I say?
Awesome.
We gotta let the people come in.
Yep.
Yeah, so shout out to Miles Meyer. You can find him on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Frame Banger. That is his name. He's a cat here in LA. He went to Purdue. And
there you go.
Yeah, so shout out to Miles. Drinking my kombucha. My wife turned me on to this. Oscar, I'm telling you, better get it. And you, what part of you're in Idaho, right?
Yeah, we're in northern Idaho. We're about an hour and a half from the Canadian border, so pretty high
border.
Up. Yeah,
Canadian border, eh?
Yeah, eh.
Canada. What part of Canada?
I don't know. Whatever's on the left side above Idaho.
What's the biggest city in Canada you guys are close to? Quebec?
I don't know, to be totally honest with you.
You just live in Idaho.
I just live in Idaho. I get a lot of students from Canada. I get lots of students from Toronto. But, you know, I'm not really paying attention to how long they traveled. They're paying attention to how long they travel. So
you guys still the capital of potatoes?
You know, a lot, that's like a really common misconception. All the potatoes are grown in southern Idaho. So northern Idaho is known for nothing. We've got beautiful rivers and mountains and lakes, but that's about it. There's nothing special up here.
Cool. Guys, I know we're starting. Well, we're a minute late. You know how I do it. We're a minute late. Thanks for joining us on this is a very chill Saturday. I don't know how it was for you today. It was chill for me today. I mean,
I had an easy Saturday.
Yeah, easy like Sunday morning. I want to invite to the show, and this was actually supposed to go on. Was it last week? Last week?
Yep, a couple weeks ago. I remember the 13th or something.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Yeah.
Maybe it's good we sidestep that.
Yeah. I want to welcome to the show Stephanie Vichinsky.
Yes.
From Method Man K9. I'm just kidding. Method K9.
Oh, I love the clapping. I love it.
Right. StreamYard is the shit. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, it's the best.
So, and when we first talked, because all we've been doing is texting and messaging. So
yeah.
She didn't know if I was a munchkin or a midget or a guy that didn't speak English. She didn't know. She just said, hey, he's
It was a leap of faith for sure.
Yeah. But as I watched some of your videos over the recent months, I noticed that you had my favorite dog on your shirt. And right? The Dobie. Yeah. I'm gonna give your husband my address and send me a sweater. Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna appreciate the story very much.
I want to hear it.
About this though. It's not like my favorite dog per se. It is definitely up there, but when we were creating this logo, the whole purpose of the logo is we're rebuilding the dog. That's what we do. We do rehab work, and we tried it because I had all shepherds at the time when we were developing the logo. We tried it with shepherds, and it was just too rounded. It didn't look very good. And then we were like, oh, well, we could try it with the down-eared dog. And it just looked like a blotch in the middle of the thing. And we're like, we need a dog that's going to be just sharp, like super sharp. There's no mistaking what breed it is, or that it is a dog, what shape it is. And so the Doberman just really stood out like that. So that's how we came up with that specific one. But it wasn't the first choice, but it was eventually the best choice.
Well, listen, Meredith, remember I told you Meredith was texting me, said, when I'm going to bring her on? She's the first person to chime in. Look at that. She said,
hi there.
So, yeah. So she said she's been following for 3 years. Great support.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yes. So when we first talked before we got on, you thought that I would, I was interested in trying to get this conversation because of all of the Doberman support you give us subconsciously, right? But in actually, you know, when I interviewed Nate Schumer, shout out to Nate Schumer. He had told me, said, yeah, man, you got to hit up Stephanie, man. She's really good. She deals with these reject dogs that got kicked out of high school for fighting too much.
Isn't that the
riding
truth?
yellow bus and shit. I was like, okay, we got to talk to
Oh my
her.
goodness. I'm the short bus teacher.
Yes.
Thank you to Nate for recommending me. I'm really looking forward to tonight.
And so I noticed that. So first of all, let's get into it. Tell us where you're located in Iowa, Idaho, which you've already done. But tell us how long you've been into the dog industry. I'm not going to say a dog game because this is a profession.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in Post Falls, Idaho, which is northern Idaho, and this will be my 16th year professionally. But I would say I was probably obsessed with dogs from day one. I'm one of those kids that just couldn't get enough of dogs when I was in high school, and people were trying to help you decide what you wanted to do for a profession. I was like, I want to be a vet. As soon as I got out of high school, I went into veterinary school, and then I saw a dog get hit by a car and be brought into the clinic that I was working in, and it absolutely broke my heart because they couldn't save the dog. And I was like, I don't think I could do this every day. So I reluctantly went and got my degrees and everything else because there wasn't that much, if you think 16, 17, 18 years ago, or actually it's probably longer than that, there wasn't that much in the dog industry to really go into it. It wasn't like booming like it is now. And I came from a really poor family. So the concept of paying someone to train a dog was nuts to my family. Like, we had dogs, they were in the backyard, they ate table scraps, they didn't go to the vet. Like, that's the lifestyle that I grew up in. And so I got my degrees, in English and philosophy, and which does help me in my business quite a bit. Helps me with my communication and such. But I remember I adopted a dog from the Humane Society. I'm like 20 years old. I wanted this dog to just do everything with me. And she was a basket case. She was a wreck. Really anxious dog, really nervous dog. And I was just like, I can't take you anywhere, And so I Googled, how do you get a dog to walk nicely on a leash? Because she would drag me all over the place. And videos on YouTube came up of people who were professional dog trainers. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. There's people making money to train other people's dogs. Like, the poor kid in me was like, what in the world are people spending their money on? And the moment I heard that, it was like a switch, and I never once looked back. So, recreationally, just working with my own dog, I dove deep into anything that I could get my hands on. And then probably within a year or two, I was looking at it professionally at that point.
Yeah. Now, I've seen a lot of you specialize more in dogs behavior modification, correct?
Yeah.
But isn't that really more of training the owners to change their behavior? I mean, and more or less demand authority, or think about it. I mean, it's to me, I think dog training. That's why I love the in-person training. Right, because the trainer is really training you on how to administer the commands and get your dog attention to make them do what they want to do. But the dogs you actually deal with, it's a spectrum. It's a broad spectrum of dogs from skittish behavior, which to me I think is genetic, right?
Oh yeah,
all the way
up
to aggressive behavior where they have forward aggression.
Yeah.
How do you curtail, because sometimes it's not about the dog, it's really about the owner.
Yeah.
So how do you decipher that when you do deal with those kind of dogs?
Yeah. It's different for every case. Obviously there's a concrete system behind everything that every owner needs to learn how to do, but you also have to look at each dog as a whole. So we've had dogs that have grown up in fight clubs. We've had dogs that have been seriously abused. They've had acid poured on them. They've been burnt. They've been, all sorts of things. And, they come from all sorts of different genetic backgrounds, different environmental backgrounds. And sometimes it isn't just the owner. Sometimes the dogs are very complex. And even we as trainers have to really think outside the box and develop sometimes whole new systems to help these dogs learn. And then, you know, sometimes dogs, just mentally, their mental makeup it's just not all there. Like the neurons are not firing the way that they're supposed to. And so then we have to kind of be creative again. So it's very easy to say that, you know, you can kind of teach a blanket theory to every owner and every dog will respond. But I have put my foot in my mouth enough times to know that that is not the case. And I do typically get very, very good owners, very dedicated owners. And we have to do a lot of brainstorming sometimes if it's definitely a more complex case. So yeah, a lot of owner goes into it, but sometimes it is the dog.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I first bought my first female Dobie, and her name was Lady. I bought her from a breeder out in Arizona, and I saw her online. This is like 2011, because I already had a male, right? And as soon as my wife left, as soon as my ex-wife left the house, I said, I'm gonna get what I want to get, because she, you know, she's from Belize. Hell, they got Belize. They got wild dingoes in Belize. You don't like dogs, so I said, when she leave, I'm getting me a dog, right? and I didn't have to make up the bed in the morning no more. It's great. But anyway, I saw this female dog, and this is a question for you: how to fix this, or can it be fixed? I saw this female puppy on the website out of Arizona. I like females that are shaped like men. Like I like heavy looking females. I mean, dogs. I have heavy looking dogs, right?
Okay.
Female dogs that have the male look, the big head, the big chest, everything. Because most of the mitochondrial DNA, if they're going to be mothers, comes from the mother, right? And when you're breeding. And so I asked the breast, I said, why is she way in the corner over there when you took a picture? I said, why is she the only one left? And the breeder told me, oh, we was going to keep her for breeding. And I thought, that makes sense. Then I had a transport company I call this company called uship.com, and they transport dogs, cars, or whatever. And he went from Arizona. He brought her here. First thing it was, when she came in, she was skittish. It's like, that's weird. Me not being a dog guy, I didn't think nothing of it. I said, oh, you know, she'll warm up to me or whatever. No matter what I did for almost 9 months, 10 months, she still acts skittish. And now that I realized that she wasn't mistreated, she wasn't beaten, she never been attacked, she's been catered to, and she's still skittish. What is your views on trying to correct that behavior? And if you can correct it, aren't we thinking about that something may trigger it where it comes right back again? Because I don't deal with skittish dogs. So how do you deal with that when you have a client that has a skittish dog?
I would say if you were noticing skittishness as a pup that young and it never really went away, like you didn't notice like an ebb and flow with fear imprint periods and stuff like that, that you're probably dealing with some genetics there for sure. And then, you know, potentially if she was boxed out by all the other puppies when it came to socialization and when it came to play and it came to all these other things, you could, you know, have lack of exposure there potentially. But for me, if I had a skittish case, you know, the thing that I would be focusing on, there's 2-3 primary things that I would focus on. Play would probably be the highest on my list, is creating a really, really strong play game that I could transfer into every environment. Second thing that I'd be working on is completely excessive amounts of exposure, so much exposure. And I'm not talking about throwing the dog into the deep end, but consistently getting the dog out there so that the living room and the backyard are almost novel to the dog. We're hardly ever there. We hardly ever spend time there. We're always out in the real world. And then the third thing that I would be practicing in great quantity is resting in challenging areas. So I'd be doing massage work and things like that. And usually, I mean, your pup's probably not too extreme, but even if you had a more extreme fear case, usually what winds up happening is that the relationship gets so good, the play game gets so good, the trust becomes so deep that the dog, when you're present, doesn't look fearful at all. But if you were to leave and they didn't have kind of that anchor in their life, you would notice the fearfulness come back, because you're probably dealing with some genetics, and we can't rewire genetics, right? But we can get, whoever's going to be the primary handler, we can get them to such a point that if I'm even in the room, my dog looks like $1 million, right? But if I leave and I'm disconnected and someone else is handling the dog, we're going to see that some of that skittishness there again. So my goal is usually to make the relationship so strong between the handler and the dog that you don't even really notice too much that you have this heavily skittish dog.
Good point. So now I know how to fix that, but I'm not still getting a skittish dog. That's out of the question. One of the things I want to talk to you about is, we Americans, we have this thing called the 101 Dalmatian effect. Every time a dog like Turner Hooch, which Tom, what is that guy named that played Tom Hanks, Turner and Hooch, that dog became famous. It became a breed of choice.
Yeah.
Then we had what is that? John Wick.
Yeah.
Where now the Malinois in everybody's household.
Yeah.
Right. And I won't say that the Doberman is that way because we won a realistic dog show at the Westminster, but we actually are getting another look again, right? Yeah. So my question is to you is, with the Malinois being so popular and everybody getting all these high prey driven dogs and even some of the Dobies, I don't think that the owners are really satisfying the prey drive, thus making them a pet that they can't tolerate. So how do you, when you have clients come to you with Malinois or Dutches or whatever herding or working dogs, and it's oh my God, my backyard is tore up, my jacuzzi top is chewed up.
Yeah.
What kind of hard discussions are you having with these kind of clients?
Yeah, it's so, typically our clients are pretty heavily vetted. So by the time they actually work with us, we have usually pretty committed clients. But, if it was a call in and somebody was like, I want my dog to stop doing A, B, and C, we have to really start talking about what the dog's designed to do. And is the dog, getting fulfilled in that design? And if the dog's not, that design is going to come out in all the wrong places at all the wrong times. And if we don't change our behavior, we can't expect the dog to change their behavior, right? And so we have to have some tougher conversations. And, if I was going to be able to just give some simple advice to somebody and it was just like a one-time phone call or one-time question, I would say replace all of your walks with tug games, right? Replace all of your, cookie treat training with flirt pole. I would replace all of that to even have a shot at maintaining this dog, because the average walk it's really just a way of frustrating our dogs. It's nothing. And it just winds up pissing most of them off. And then we bring them home, especially working dogs. We bring them home. They just got rejected from doing anything that would fulfill them. We bring them home and then we let them into the backyard and we wonder why they wreak havoc. It's because they haven't had any fulfillment. So I would replace your boring 1 mile walk, which does nothing for your dog, and learn how to play tug. I would replace your boring 1 mile walk. And if you can't really tug too well and you need to sit down, all right, sit down in the middle of the yard and play flirt pole. I mean, do something to fulfill this dog more. Because you can't get rid of prey drive. You've got to satisfy it and teach them how to control it. It's never going to go away.
Yeah, I'm noticing here in LA County, there's a lot of Malinois going to the shelter now. A lot of them. I don't know if you guys have that going on, but it's to the point where, during COVID, the pet industry boomed.
Yeah.
It grew. And now those same people can't work from home anymore. So what they're doing,
and their dogs can't be home anymore either. They're not crate trained. They're not socialized. They're not fulfilled. They're a bunch of basket cases being left at home. We see a lot of that, and lots of shelters are overflowing, unfortunately, because of it.
Yeah. What do you think about? And I have a different view on it as well. About a dog being social versus sociable, and the difference I see is that I want my dog to be social. And of course, I have My dogs have to be protection trained and obedience trained, on and off leash, right? But I don't want a dog to be sociable where everybody he meets, he's looking for a treat. Is that good behavior for a dog to have for an owner?
No, well, I mean, it's a lot more shapeable than a dog that doesn't want to have anything to do with anybody. It's very easy to shape that. But what we don't want to create is the expectation that every time somebody or some dog comes into their presence, it's immediately social hour, because one, it's going to put them in a dangerous position at some point, right? Two, it's going to create a highly pushy, demanding dog. And three, it's likely going to lead to reactivity and aggressive looking behavior because your dog is so frustrated because they're so used to getting what they want when they want it. The most important thing that I would teach dogs is, yes, to be social, but I want you to be neutral until I tell you it's okay to be social. It's what I teach my helper dogs. I have dogs that come in and out of the facility all day, every day. My dogs can be off leash, just walking through the office, walking through the building, and they're disinterested in engaging with anybody. But if I say, okay, yeah, this is okay, you can go check out this person, you can say hi to them, you can say hi to this dog or whatever, then they go over there and they're social, right? I can't put those limitations on immediately. I let them be pretty social in the beginning and kind of move up on people and really have that curiosity. And then I kind of taper it back and shape it more where there's a time and place for that social behavior. But yeah, I would not want to deal with a dog that's allowed to really call the shots on what time it is, every single time a person or a dog presents itself, because anytime that it's not the right time and you come in to say otherwise, you're going to get a dog that it develops reactivity. You're going to get a dog that redirects on you, redirects on your leash, redirects on your hands or your arms or your legs or whatever it is, because they don't know how to deal with their emotions in the moment. So we definitely want to teach dogs neutrality, and then we can teach them that there's a time and place for social stuff.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Now that brings me to the other end of the spectrum. Aggressive dog behavior. Now, I'm still learning on reading a dog, whether he's defensive or he has, well, we already know what forward aggression is.
Yeah.
But I've seen this guy, Dog Daddy, and we spoke about it a little bit before we went live, how he does a lot of hard corrections. I mean, when I look at some of his videos, it's not a fair fight. He's got the dog muzzled up. He's using the prong improperly. The prong is down here versus right here. And he's doing all the correcting, but I can almost guarantee you, I can't guarantee anything except death and taxes, but I can almost guarantee you that the dogs are interacting with him when they should be interacting with their owners, since the owners have a problem with that. What is your observation? What do you think should be a corrective approach on aggressive dog behavior?
Yeah. So a lot of what Dog Daddy is doing, he's kind of he has reactive dogs, etc. Come to his classes and stuff or whatever, and then to help settle the dog, because you can see that the owner is struggling. They're gonna let go of their leash. Like you can see these dogs are really pulling pretty hard. He goes and he grabs the leash, which typically elicits a really big response from the dog. And there are easier ways to do that. I don't have the luxury to do training in that way. I only weigh 120 pounds. So, I mean, if a dog is 70 pounds, it can probably overpower me. So I don't have the luxury of doing things that way. So typically what I do and my staff would do is, if I need to take the dog from the handler, if it's like a board and train scenario, I eventually need to take the dog, or if it's a class scenario or a seminar or something like that. Typically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a walking handoff. So granted, I mean, if the owner does let go, the owner lets go. Like you just damage control at that point. But I would say most of the time the owner can hold on. Really what I'm looking to do is create a nice long walk with the dog. We might have to circle if we're like in a building or something like that, but we're just going to do a nice long walk together. And as the dog, lunges and doesn't really get what he's looking for, a reaction out of me or a reaction out of the owner, lunges, etc., that might go on. It depends on the severity of the dog. It might go on for 30 seconds. A lot of dogs are easier than they look, or it might go for 30 minutes. I've had some walks that are 30, 45 minutes with some of my board and train drop-offs. But eventually the dog kind of starts to accept you as part of the group and walk with you. And eventually the owner can kind of just hand the leash off. I continue walking and the owner can fall back at that point in time. And I just take the dog on a nice long walk at that point. It's not to say it doesn't sometimes get spicy afterwards, but very rarely, even with very intense dogs. So I think neutralizing and putting their mindset in a much better spot prior to that transition can help a lot with that real explosive behavior. I feel like a lot of times if we move too quickly, we can wind up pushing them because we remove flight, we remove freeze, we remove a lot of options within defense drive, and fight becomes the only option, even though you were mentioning your friend who went into the lady's backyard and he was wearing the bite suit and everything like that, and the dog sounded like it really, really wanted to go forward, but its body language was really retreating. And because it was in the yard, it had space to retreat. But if an owner is holding a leash, the leash is really tight and they're just trying to keep a hold on it, what else is the dog going to be able to choose other than fight? And to me, being a buck 20, I'm not looking to fight with a dog. That's not my interest. I'm looking to have a dog trust and respect me over time. So we do the walking handoff. Even with intense cases, it works. It just sometimes takes longer than others, but it does work. And it usually sets the dog up for a nice training for the rest of the day where they're pretty neutral with you. They're pretty relaxed with you, pretty trusting of you, and you can capitalize on that.
I see a lot of bite accidents, and I don't know if they call accidents because you really got to blame the owners on not recognizing that at the end of the day, these dogs are still animals, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw where a dog attacked one of the family members and caused some great damage. I don't really say let's blame the dog. I think that has to do with the responsibility of the pet owners, because I know with me, I have 3 Dobies and 1 Rottie. My Rottie, excuse me, he fires up on anybody that comes to the house or come to the front door. Like, we ain't never flanked him. We ain't never really agitated him. We did a BH on him, and that is it, but he fires up even on a very subtle move of anybody coming to the house. So what we do is we either one or two things. We either, like, before we have a guest, we put him in the backyard in his kennel, right? Just eliminate the issue. Or we have this big ass, you know how the bird cages have these big blankets to put over the bird cage to quiet them up? Well, they make that for dogs, dog crates too, right? And then what he can't see, he won't respond to, right? But I really believe that at the end of the day, I think it's the accidents that we do see. I saw a video recently where I guess the pit bull got out of the pet sitter's car and he bit her hand, and then he bit the passenger hand. And these people who had been boarding this dog for a week. I think the fact that people are really forgetting that these animals can really do some serious damage. They're forgetting, like, these are animals who are with a purpose. They got canines for a reason.
Yeah.
This ain't a manatee. These, and I think now, do you think that pet owners now, with the improper usage of equipment, like putting a harness on an 80-pound dog while you're walking them, right? Do you think it's really that there's a lack of education with pet owners nowadays, especially with getting Connie Corsos now? That's famous. Walking on harnesses. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a much bigger problem than just lack of education about dogs. And I'm going to be speaking about this. I have a couple of talks coming up, but this is a subject that I'm really passionate about, and it's something I really work with my clients on. I don't know what happened there. Lost connection to your camera. Can you still see me?
I can't see you, but obviously his camera, it times out. You must be on a Sony camera or something like that.
Hey, hon. Julius will fix it. He's the mastermind.
but we can still hear you.
Okay. I'll answer the question here in just a minute. Are you out there, sweetie?
He's probably watching us.
Okay, so he's gonna fix that now that I got him, but I can answer your question. So I think it's a much bigger issue than just people are not educated about dogs. I think if you looked at our lifestyles 200 years ago, I mean, we weren't going to the grocery store and, we weren't driving, nice cars. We didn't have perfect little backyards. We were farming and we were tilling the land and, we were hunting for, food and things like that. And we lost touch with that lifestyle the moment that things became really industrialized and streamlined and things like that. And we don't have any connection to nature anymore. People don't have a clue how to grow their own food. People don't have a clue how to interact with animals. They don't go out into nature anymore, which is, if you really start to look at the rapid increase of things like depression and anxiety and all these other issues, is we stopped living a lifestyle we were meant to live too. We're in front of screens 24/7, we're on our phones 24/7, we have all of this artificial stuff around us, artificial food and everything. And we lost the connection to one of the most healing properties we can, and that's nature. So when I'm working with my clients, yes, of course, we have to go over dog body language and understanding all of that. But I also have to encourage people to reconnect with the world around them, get out into nature, don't take your dog on a 1 mile walk through the city, like get out there in the fields, get out there, doing stuff like that, learn how to plant a garden, like, reconnect with all of this stuff, because it's not just a singular issue. We as a society have completely fallen by the wayside when it comes to that. And I always make the joke, I'm in northern Idaho, so there's farmland everywhere, so we have a really nice mixture, between, areas like that and then city areas. But I can tell you for certain, the farmers are never going to be my clients. They're never going to call me and ask for help with their dog, because they already understand, whether they know about dog body language or they took a course or they read a book, they intuitively understand animals, right? They intuitively understand the land. They understand motivating factors. They understand direction and correction. They understand, all of those things. And, it shows, right? But most people who are living in cities, who are working from cubicles and things like that, it's not just them, or it's not just their dogs, but they also are highly disconnected.
Yeah.
Kind of like me and my camera.
I know, highly disconnected. Did he figure out what's going on with it?
He's working on it. He says yes, he knows, and yes, he's fixing it.
Oh, okay. So that leads me to another question. So we talked about the student. Let's talk about the teacher. Is so many canine trainers in the past, I would say 8 to 10 years or less, that have been just popping up, well, I would say 5 years now, popping up. They make 1 or 2 reels, a 30-second reel, a dog doing a competition here with some luring, and all of a sudden, oh, he's a professional A-grade trainer. And you ask him, like, what type of training has he done? What type of schooling? Does he have any mentors? And he does it. And then I was talking to a guy named David. He owns this company called Protection Dog Sales. You probably see him on YouTube. I interviewed David, and he stated that a trainer should have thousands of hours in canine training before he called himself a trainer. My question is to you, how do you feel about trainers actually, wow, there you go.
Hey, I'm back.
How do you feel about trainers getting academics training in the classroom setting first?
I think that's valuable, but it has to be paired with hands-on experience. It has to be paired. So for instance, I have students that come to me from all over the country to learn dog training. And that's great. It's incredibly important to understand the theory behind things, and not just the theory behind dog training, but also behind business and all those other things. But theory is still theory, no matter how many books you read or whatever. You're never going to be able to read enough books and then sit down and play the violin. You're never going to be able to watch enough videos and sit down and play the violin. It's just never going to happen. So what I recommend to my students is, you're not ready to take somebody's money. You're not ready to start your own business. You're not ready to do any of these things, but you are ready to go help in some way. And so I recommend to my students, get out there in the shelters and rescues and volunteer your time. Volunteer your time as much as you possibly can. Even if that's just something as simple as dog walking for them, go out there and do it, and touch as many dogs with as many personalities, different sizes, different genetic makeups, and get very comfortable in that. I highly recommend people get into sport work. I highly recommend that people get into, doing AKC stuff. I highly recommend people dabbling with service work and all of that. I recommend working in doggy daycare, even though I don't necessarily approve of most doggy daycares in the way that they're run. Get out there and know what it feels like to have 60 large dogs around you that can blow up at any moment in time, right? Where you need to actually read the room, and you need to read what's going on in the room in order to successfully handle any type of temperament issues that might be going on. Touch as many dogs and be exposed to as many dogs as possible, in addition to studying the theory behind dog training. Otherwise, I have some students who come to me and they've been training for 10, 15 years, and they're training one dog a year. And they're going to seminar after seminar after seminar after seminar saying, I just still don't feel like I'm ready. You're never going to be ready. Get out there and work the dogs, as many as you can. And if that means starting at a shelter, walking, 15 dogs a day, start at the shelter, walking 15 dogs a day, right? And that's what's going to get your skills where they need to be. But you cannot be a perpetual student of theory. You also have to get out there and touch as many dogs as you can. So I really think that dog training experience should be measured in how many dogs have you trained from start to finish, not necessarily how many years have you been doing it, right? Because you can have somebody who's been doing it for 30 years, but they only train a couple dogs a year. Well, I got to tell you what, you're severely limited in what it is that you know, because I can tell you, every new dog that I check in somehow puts my foot in my mouth where I think I had it all worked out. And this dog's going to say, absolutely not. I got a whole different way of responding to the information that you're giving me, right? So we continue to grow and shape through the experiences after we've kind of learned the theory. Does that make sense?
Makes plenty of sense. And I was, first of all, I love the crates you have in the back. Those are some great crates. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect crates.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that you do actual certifications as well on the Method Canine Institute. So I'm gonna show that to the people here. Tell me, what do we look at right here? Because I know you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 level certifications.
Yeah, so levels, they all deal with different things. So the level 1 is designed for somebody who wants to become a dog trainer but doesn't necessarily want to go into heavy behavioral work. So it's going to deal with understanding your fundamentals, which of course is the most important part of dog training. So really understanding your timing, understanding your body language, learning how to read dogs, leash language, all of that. Level 1 is also going to go over, of course, behavioral issues, but nothing too crazy. So jumping, barking, digging, nipping, chewing, pulling, humping, all of those types of things. Level 1's also going to teach you about public speaking. It's going to teach you about opening your own business, how to design a logo, how to create your website, all that. It's going to teach you dog CPR, first aid. That level 1 really focuses heavily on that. Level 2 is going to start moving you in much more heavily into behavioral work, specifically fear, anxiety, and reactivity. So there's a great deal of case studies in there and theory that go in behind that. And then level 3 is going to focus very heavily on aggression in all of its forms. So that's going to be resource guarding, dog on dog aggression, human aggression, all of those different facets. It's going to go into all that. So it just depends on how far you want to go. And then the level 4 master certification also means that you have worked with us side by side, one-on-one, whereas levels 1 through 3, they're available completely online. It's not to say that, you're going to be able to watch the videos and then take a test and then you're certified. There's a lot of video submissions that the students have to do, and there's a lot of very heavy critique that the students have to go through to earn the certification. But the 1 through 3 is available completely online, and then the master certification is where you come here and work with us. But yeah, we have that available for people anywhere in the world, and we've been training trainers pretty heavily for the last like 7 years, and we created the Method Canine Institute in 2024, the end of 2024. So we're set up now to do that worldwide for anybody who wants to become a professional dog trainer, and then take them for however deep they want to go into behavioral work. We can take them there.
I love the fact that let me get back here. I love the fact that we are not only we trying to give them, or we're giving them the hands-on experience that they must still have, but there is a classroom setting aspect to this, and it can be virtual classroom setting aspect, but you're never too good to not learn something new, right? And the world has changed so much that, and the domestic issues that happen within our schools, even at elementary schools, junior high schools, even going to a parade, you may not make it home. It's different than it was 20 years ago. Much different.
Everything's very different.
This, and I have 2 grown kids that I had in my in the late 90s, and I started over with my now my ex-wife. I started over with he's 12 now. And I will say, this is the first time where I say, this is a bad time to raise kids. I'll be honest with, it's not the kids, the issue is, will my kid come home that day from school?
Yes. It's a very, very different world. But, my husband and I tell stories to our daughter all the time about, our life growing up. My parents, I mean, they just let me loose in the morning. And, when street lights went on, we came home, and there's no cell phones, nobody asking where I was. And my parents weren't worried about it. And my daughter's like, well, why can't I go do that? And I was like, we don't live in that world anymore, unfortunately. So your life is a little bit more restricted due to that, but it's necessary, unfortunately.
But you know what though, Steph, and we're not jumping off on tangents here because it all comes full circle. Our parents was really raising us to be grown before we were grown. Think about that.
That's true.
We were babysitting our siblings. We were frying food with the stove. And where I'm from, Mississippi, born and raised in the South, I was driving a car before I had license.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is North Idaho, man. I mean, we're driving, stick shift. We're driving stick shifts, 4-wheelers, motorcycles, all over the place.
I'm gonna go old school.
Out of the ground. Yeah,
I'm gonna go old school. How about the stick shift on the steering wheel of the truck?
Yeah, no, we're doing all that. We're plowing, everybody out, and stuff like that. Yeah, we grew up in North Idaho doing all that. And I think that those grow up moments are important, but I think our kids today are facing different types of grow up moments that I don't know if anybody is prepared to handle. They're facing a whole different element here. So as much as I would love to just, send my kid into the wolves, I want my kid to come home at the end of the day too, which I think is a little bit of a different world than we were living in 20 years ago.
So I'm gonna hit on this other one because you got a couple of sites and they all have a serve a purpose. You have one right here. It says we talked about this, become a certified trainer.
Yep, that'll just take you back over there. Yes. This is our page for our subscription page. So anybody this is kind of part of the Method Canine Institute too. When I started it, my idea was I wanted it to be like a college. You can go to your local college and you can sign up for a cooking class. You can sign up for a music class, or you can sign up for a full-fledged degree if you want to. And it's just going to depend on what people are looking for. So, I have a subscription page. People can pay $12 a month and get access to hundreds of tutorials if that's just what they want to chip away at. I've got, premium courses that they can purchase where there's 100 videos on one subject that they can purchase if that's what they prefer to do, right? Or they can go the full-on certification route, which is like the degree, and you can get, the full ride through the Method Canine Institute. It just depends on what people are interested in doing.
Now, you know, we can't, like I'm a twin, by the way. Okay. I'm a twin brother. I'm a twin. And I've always had this, I'm an A-type guy, right? And when we worked together 22 years ago, if the employees didn't come to work with the khakis and the polo shirt Monday through Thursday, or if they didn't come to work on time and they come with the hair not combed or the pants not all the way up, I have a problem with that, right? And I would want to fire them. I must have fired my secretary 2 or 3 times in 1 year.
Yeah.
Right. And my twin brother said something to me along, you know, he's one of these yoga bearer type quoting ass guys. He quotes some shit that, like, that's subliminal, you know, it's like makes sense. Right. He said, hey, Gerald, you know, you can fire everybody, but remember this, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
All right. So my question is, I already know who this person Stephanie is. Tell me about these other teammates right here, Hope and Carrie.
Yeah. Hope and Carrie have been with us for a long time. Hope was actually my very, very first shadow student. So in February of 2019 was the first time that I offered a program to train people to become trainers. And Hope was the first person that signed up, and she signed up with her dog Murphy. She'd been studying dog training for a little while. She'd been volunteering at shelters and rescues, and she was looking to get more of a formal education. And I would say, like, within the first half hour of meeting her, my husband and I were like, this person is something special. So we created a great relationship with her, eventually hired her, and she's been with us ever since. She's seen almost as many pretty nasty cases as I have. So she's my ride or die. She's the person on the other end of that leash that keeps me safe, because as a 120-pound female, I got to do a lot of multiple lines when I deal with bigger dogs, because I'm just not strong enough to handle all them. And she's usually the person on the other end of that line. So I've trusted her with my life more times than I can count. So Hope is a phenomenal trainer. She helps me run the institute. So she helps me coach the students. She's a phenomenal teacher, wonderful public speaker. So she's kind of almost a clone of me, which is awesome because it makes the business run so well. Carrie is another.
Oh, shout out to Hope.
Yeah, and there it is. You got the clap. Carrie has been with us forever too. Carrie is just an absolute powerhouse. She does not do the dog training, but as you can see, we got a lot of stuff going on the back end. We've got students from all over the world. We've got clients from all over the world. We've got phone calls ringing off the hook. We got messages and all this stuff. Carrie handles all of that. Carrie is just one of the most naturally graceful, funny, easygoing people I've ever been around. And she's just phenomenal with our clients, with our students, making sure that everybody gets where they're meant to be. And she just does a great job at that, which Hope and I are really not the best at. We know we break the computers when we touch them, and, you know, we stumble over our words when we're on the phone, and, you know, we just don't do any of that well. And Carrie is just an absolute natural at all of that. And so we're actually updating our website's going to be brand new on April 1st, actually. So I have another wonderful employee that is added to our new site, but she actually takes care of all of our social media, all of our graphics, all of our, you know, she actually built the new website. Just another phenomenal addition to our team. So she handles that whole end of it. And then Julius, who's supposed to be on there, but he talked me out of it, but I made him be on the new website. Julius is the behind the scenes man. So he's taking care of all of the tech. He's taking care of all of the marketing. He's taking care of all advertising. He does payroll, and he's the HR department. And, you know, he's spinning 1,000 plates back here. So it looks like I do all this by myself, and that absolutely isn't how it goes. 9 times out of 10, I just show up when I'm told. You know, but I do have a phenomenal team that has been here for a long time, and I can't imagine ever changing it.
Shout out to Special K, Carrie, and the other people. Shout out to them. You know, it definitely takes a team. Like I said, I told you, my videographer, Miles Meyer, when I do those episodes where I actually go to people's places and interview them, and it's really nice, and it's crisp and clean, and it's edited right, that ain't me doing that. That ain't me.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
have a videographer as well that I had for the last 7 or 8 years. So it's the only reason our videos look any good whatsoever is somebody else does it.
Yeah, I'm like I tell people, I said, listen, like Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff, I'm the rapper, he's the DJ.
There
right?
you go.
There you go.
You can't do all of it.
You know I'm not gonna get tired of this clapping shit. You know I like
you go ahead. You do you.
How about the gong?
Yeah, that one we gotta find the right time for that one. Otherwise, I'm just gonna feel dumb every time it goes off.
Right. So let me ask you this. So now I had on my boy David Wright. Shout out to is it Blackwood K9. He's from well, I met him here in LA, but he's from New York. He moved to LA years after, and then in the past few years he moved to the Pacific Northwest in Oregon.
Okay.
And I asked him this question. I'm gonna ask you because you own shepherds, right?
Yeah.
And I said, is the Malinois a cheat code for dog trainers?
In the sense that they look really flashy?
Yeah.
I heard another dog trainer, and I can't even give credit to who it was. I heard somebody else. Say it, but anybody can drive a Ferrari around the racetrack and make it look good. But it sure takes a really skilled driver to drive the beat up Volvo around the track and make it look good. And I believe there's a little bit to that. There's a little bit to that for sure. It's one thing to be dealing with a dog who's motivated and desires to do everything that you're asking them to do, right? It's pretty easy to make those dogs look pretty good in a short period of time, right? And that's where you were talking about, like, somebody can be working on a competition heel and post a video of it, and because the average dog owner can't get that, or doesn't know how to work on that and doesn't know how easy it is, then this video blows up and people think that this person has a tremendous amount of skill, which they might. I'm not saying against that, but sometimes people don't have a tremendous amount of skill. They got really good at food lore and stuff like that, and they're showing a functional competition or focused heel, and the internet thinks it's amazing, and that's because they got in a Ferrari and drove the Ferrari around the track. But if you can get the beat up Volvo to look just as good, to drive that thing, the Tokyo drift style, and make that thing look amazing, and people are like, wow, I want to do that, then to me that's the dog training skill that comes out right there. So mals, yes, can make it easier, but there are some mals out there that they want to fight you tooth and nail over everything. Even though they're highly motivated, they still want to fight you tooth and nail over everything. So I wouldn't say it's all mals, but I would say a lot of high drive dogs make you look sometimes better than you are.
And that's what David said. David said that when he looks back at some of his older videos, he said, man, my Malinois made me look real good.
Yeah.
And this is why I've stuck with Dobies. First of all, I love the animal, right? I love they're the most, as far as the aesthetics, hands down, I don't think any other dog has better aesthetics, right? As far as the ears, the look, the intimidating factor. And when I used to go to a lot of, back then when I was competing, it was called IPO. They had just changed the name from Shitson to IPO. Now it's called IGP. Yeah. And I used to go take a piss break when the Malinois was on the field because it's inevitable. Like, okay, what you call it? Malinois Logan's coming up. Okay, he's gonna do this dumbbell work. He's gonna jump over the hurdle. He's gonna do a long down. I'm not impressed. But when I see a black giant, a Russian Schnauzer,
a
Rottweiler, or a Dobie, I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm watching. And you're right. So to me, that is the old beat up Volkswagen doing the Tokyo drift.
Yeah.
It's a given that malice, because most breeders, I'm not going to say all because there's no such thing as all and everything.
Right.
But most breeders who breed Malinois breed for that high energy. Yeah. Because that's what the clientele wants. That's what they expect. Yeah. Right. But when, like me, I'm a Doberman breeder that believes in a dog that can work. I like that genotype, but a dog that looks good, I like that phenotype. I love it. And so for me, I'm always trying to make sure that the only dog in the world that was ever genetically created by man that was made specifically to be a personal protection dog is the Doberman, right? And
Is
I'm
that
trying,
true?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to bring that back in my own all-world Doberman club family, right? So I'm
Right.
always steadily breeding to females who have that intangible, right? Because this is what the Doberman, and you know what? I hate this Q word, everybody's, because years ago and still now they call it backyard breeders, right? Which to me a backyard breeder is somebody who just don't give a shit about what they're breeding. They're just two dogs together.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a broad brush now, right? But now the most catchy word now is preservation breeder. Preservation breeder.
Yeah, I'm not in your world enough to even know that term. Explain it to me.
So preservation breeders are breeders who are breeding to preserve the animal, the longevity of the health, and what the purpose was. But I look at these preservation breeders' repertoire in their resume on their page. Oh, best of show this, best of puppy this, best of confirmation, best of. The Doberman wasn't created to be the best of show anything.
Right.
The Doberman was created to work for the owner.
Its working capacity. Yeah.
So we're doing preservation, preserve the breed that's supposed to be.
We're preserving the looks and not the temperament. Yeah. I've seen that. And what's interesting is I don't have a lot of experience in the breeding realm because I'm not a breeder, but I've worked with lots and lots of dogs, and it's funny to see dogs that are not AKC but are UKC, or to see them, to see a working border collie as opposed to a show border collie. And the show border collies are always the one that come to me for behavioral problems. The working border collies, yeah, they might be intense, but they're not unstable. They're stable and intense. And those dogs don't come to me for training. They don't need any help. They're not popping off at every little thing, and biting people and attacking other dogs. But the show lines are, right? Yeah. They look gorgeous. They look graceful. They're all these things, but mentally they're a mess. So yeah, I think the moment that we made looks the standard and we did away with the rest of the stuff, I think a lot of things went downhill. You even look at the difference between them. The show line couldn't even do the job that they were originally designed to do. It's so heavy. The body doesn't move the right way. Same thing with shepherds, show line shepherds. There's no way they could do the job that shepherds were originally designed to do, right? You look at those working lines and they're just a different dog. They're almost different breeds at this point.
I interviewed a guy who's a canine trainer up in Canada. His name is Has from Canine Shield, and he's a big shepherd believer. And I'll be honest with you, I think didn't you have a sable?
I did, yeah.
To me, you asked me 10, 15 years ago. No, you asked me 15 years ago. I'm like, man, sables are ugly as hell. But now it's like that will be the color of choice. That or all black shepherd. It would be the color of choice. If you get a nice dark sable, like all the way down here, and the orange eyes, man, gosh.
Yeah, they're cool looking for sure.
Let me know when you get one, okay? I can convince my wife to let me have one. All I gotta do is buy her a Rivian. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, my wife is named Stephanie too.
I know you were telling me that, right? Yeah. So I actually should probably be hanging out with her more than you.
Yeah.
We've got a connection already.
She's coming right here. She wants to say hi to Stephanie. It's kind of cool to say hi, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. She go right here.
You with a PH?
Yeah. Hi, lady. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You don't mind us chatting with your man for a while?
Oh no, he's good. I'm about to leave him here.
She's like, whatever. You can do whatever you want. I'm out here.
Yeah, she bought me my Monster energy drinks, 0 sugar. So good. Yeah, bring me one. Boom.
They're not cold right now.
I don't care. I need to calm down. Bring me my Monster.
You need to calm down. Okay.
Calm down.
Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
But no, thank you. So when right now, like you don't have to tell me the exact numbers because I'm sure you wouldn't have it. Like on a weekly or weekly basis or monthly basis, are you getting more clients in state or out of state that are bringing their animals in for behavior modification?
Oh, that's actually easy. There you go. Got to keep you awake. Hopefully, I'm not boring you too much.
No, this helps me go to sleep.
Okay, you're one of
I'm
them.
just joking. Yeah.
So with our, with kind of what our company does, we don't typically draw much clientele from our local area. I would say probably only about 10% of our clientele comes from the Pacific Northwest. We get tons of clients from Canada, tons of clients from California, tons of clients from the East Coast. And then when it comes to trainers and stuff like that, we get clients from all over the world. And usually it's because only the worst of the worst are willing to travel to us specifically. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If somebody lived in New York City and they had a new puppy, they could literally Google dog trainer near me and have 500 options within a mile of them, right? But when somebody says, I have a dog that has caused multiple bites and reconstructive surgery on my family, and we're considering, putting it down, and they look up a dog trainer who does that, they're not going to find quite as many options, right? And that's why we get a lot of people who are willing to, come all the way across the country for us, because we unfortunately have made a name in that area, and those people are drawn to us. So, I'm sure there's difficult dogs in my local area, but probably not enough to keep a steady stream of dogs coming in. So we do get a lot of people from just, all over the United States, but our local area is not the heavy hitter for us.
Let me ask you this. I've seen this online and I forgot the trainer's name. And sometimes the biggest critics of trainers are other trainers. So I'm not trying to put that in the box. But my question is to you is, there's a trainer online, I forgot his name, but what he does, he has a Doberman himself, right? And when a client comes in with a dog with a behavior problem, he let his dog fix that issue. You know what I'm talking about?
I've never seen that. I've never seen who the trainer is that you're talking about.
Man, I gotta find that. He lets his dog kind of manhandle the other dog, and he checks him. Checks. But do you believe in having other dogs? Kind of like when you have a client that has an alpha dog, or allegedly he's supposed to be an alpha dog, and that means that everything revolves around him, and he doesn't evolve around nothing else. Do you have an alpha dog in your camp? They say, you know what? He'll set them straight. We're not talking about dog fighting, but we're all talking about, I'm gonna say, chin check. Like, yo, you ain't the one around here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to my helper dogs correcting other dogs. I'm not opposed to that at all. But one thing that we need to keep in mind is who's the true leader in the whole scenario. So if I have my helper dog correcting because this dog comes through the door too fast, correcting, because the dog's energy escalates when somebody comes in the house, my helper dogs would probably want to police that situation. But if I'm going to be the true leader of the house, but I take a back seat to the helper dog, I don't think that sends the best message in the long run. So I don't mind my dog assisting me periodically, but I definitely want to be the one stepping in for the vast majority of direction and correction, so that the dogs all look to me as opposed to, looking to another dog. I don't want to walk into a room, have my dog, not respond, or have the training dog not respond to me or the things that I say, or simply just my presence, but my helper dog walks in the room and all of a sudden they're ship shape. I don't know if I necessarily want that to be the relationship necessarily. So again, I'm not opposed to helper dog helping in some ways like that, but I'm not going to give up a lot of the reins do that because I want that relationship with the dog.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you. The guy was name is Beckman Training,
No.
and
Some original. Look at him.
he
Look in his eyes.
uses other
okay?
dog to
Kind of loses his mind a little bit, and you're going to see a crazy session. You're going to see Prince start to become say, "You can't do that," and I'm going to let. Look at this dog. Look how strong he is. Look how thin he is. He's not too thin. He's perfect. It's in something that.
But I won't show the rest of it because it does get a little bit gnarly. But Beckman gears himself on letting Prince check other dogs. Now, in regards to making it fair, the other dog is always muzzled up. Now, his dog Prince actually don't hurt the dog. There's no like permanent scars. There's a little bit of chin checking, right? I really think that, and they said when you don't neuter the dog, he becomes an animal. Well, I don't know about that because I've seen dogs who've been neutered and they're still the same behavior.
Yeah.
I want to know how do you deal with dog aggression from clients' dog who bring them to you, and when you fix the behavior with the other dogs in your camp and they go right back into their own personal space where the two Maltese dogs are still acting a fool, but now the dog you trained, this Labrador, is now in better behavior, but he's being forced to react the way he needs to react to get these dogs to get back into their place as far as good behavior. So my question is there some situations where you are telling the client, say, yo, before I take your money, before this course is completed, you must change some things at home?
Oh yeah. We won't sign a client unless they agree to train all the dogs. And each dog's program will look different. Sometimes we'll have, people that sign up 3 or 4 dogs for board and train because that's the avenue that they want to take. They want it to be as thorough as possible. We'll have some people who sign up, 2 of the most aggressive for board and train, and then 2 stay home or 1 stays home. And then they have to train that dog from home. So anybody who does a board and train program with us, they're supplied with I don't even remember. It's like 50 hours or so of, it might even be more than that. It might be like 80 hours worth of educational videos that they have to study and start implementing. So they need to train their dog at home. Sometimes we'll do, if they're local, which isn't usually very often, but if they are, we'll do private sessions with that dog or something like that. We'll get that dog into some kind of program where they can come in and check in with us weekly so we can make sure that that dog's on the right track prior to the other dogs going home. Because it's no different than with people. If there's this quote out there, that you hear all the time, and it says, if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you become the 6th. You hang out with, 5 alcoholics, you become the 6th, that kind of thing. So if you've got 3 or 4 dogs at home, you're sending the most problematic one. I say that in quotes because usually the most problematic one actually isn't the root of all the problems in the house, but you send the most problematic one to board and train and the other 3 just stay, basket cases at home, your dog will go right back and you won't be able to combat the influence that consistently happens around them. And you're going to wind up with a similar situation that you had before, unless you're creating and rotating. And that's a difficult life for long-term with multiple dogs. So yes, everybody has to be on board and every dog has to be trained. And we'll get the lines. Well, they're just a puppy. Okay. Well, let's get them trained. We're going to have every dog on the same system. Yeah, but they're 12. 12, we can learn just fine. You tell me your dog's 16 and they can't even stand anymore. Fine. That dog gets a pass. But a 12-year-old dog absolutely is going to be on the same page as the dog that's going through training, right?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
They don't really know that they can learn, right? A 12-year-old dog is not too old to learn. They can absolutely learn a new way of living, and it's going to be necessary if you have a severe behavioral case. So if your dog is causing serious harm, you must be prepared to do serious work and serious life changes. Otherwise, we're not going to make the changes that are necessary.
Yeah, I had an incident where I accepted a dog. First of all, I never raised this dog, but he was an offspring of a litter that I helped create because my boy was the sire. And the guy, I tell the story quite often, but the guy, he's a union electrician, so he's always traveling. And he called me about when the dog's about 1.5 years old. Hey man, you got to come get Bo. I'm traveling a lot. I don't have time to take care of him. I said, okay, cool. I knew Bo was a really good dog. He was the only male in the whole litter. I get him. I bond with him. So I'm thinking I'm bonding with him. He goes off the training. This is like 6-8 months, almost a year later. Then something just flipped where he attacked the trainer and he tried to bite the trainer in the face while she's trying to feed him. Right? So he said, hey man, we can't do nothing. We can't finish this brevet. It's a ring sport title. We can't do this brevet. You got to come get him. So I come get him and he's cool. And then usually my dogs, they're so conditioned. When I put the harness on, they know what time of day it is. It's time to go to work because we're going to do protection sports. That's the only time I put harnesses on dogs.
Yeah.
As I was putting the harness on him, he lunged at me. He bit me in the hand, and then I turned my back. He bit me in the back. This is like, why you bite me? It ain't time to go do protection on me, right?
Yeah.
I chilled. I let him get a pass. We did the training again. Another day, I'm correcting him with the prong. He loads up on me, and he attacks me again. Right? If I didn't have one of your hoodies that you're going to send me on, he would have bit all the way through to the white meat of my arm. You got the layers get whiter and whiter, right?
Yes.
And I said, we got to rethink this. Now, I asked all the breeders here, all the dog trainers in the hood, they want the roughest, toughest dog. The ones in South Central, I want a pit behavior. I don't want a PET, I want a PIT. I said, well, I got a dog for you. And they know that this dog had bit me. Like, okay, if he's biting you and he's biting the hand that feeds you, then what do you think he's going to do to somebody else, right? And the straw that broke the camel's back on this one is when he's 12 now, but at the time he was 9. He went out there in the backyard. I don't let him play with dogs without me there, first of all. But he goes by the kennel, finna put his food bowl between the kennel, over the kennel wall, and put it down through the fence, and he's growling at him. Now, when you do that, it's like, I don't want to sell them or give them away because that's called vicarious liability.
Yeah, making it someone else's problem.
Right, and then they come back to me because I'm the one with the deeper pockets, allegedly.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to put them down. Now, are you ever coming into any cases? And this is our last question because I know we could talk all day, but have you heard of too many cases where a dog is just way too vicious that your recommendation is for him to be medically put down? I mean, it's got to be, every dog is not going to have a fixed switch.
Yeah, it's probably the most agonizing. I would say if you truly care about, what you do, is probably the most agonizing, conversation that you would ever have with a client. I know it is for us. I think it is handed out much too easily by inexperienced trainers that dogs should be put down. So I would say that, humane euthanasia, we hear these words go around. I would say many, many times is not necessary, right? But you're dealing with a trainer who just doesn't have enough experience in that realm. So no different than, with you, if you've done a lot of protection work, if a dog starts lunging at you and going crazy and stuff like that, you're probably fairly comfortable in that realm, right? You're probably fairly comfortable with that kind of energy coming out of a dog. But I think if you were someone who had no experience with that, you'd only been around happy-go-lucky dogs, and then a working breed throws this really, really aggressive behavior at you, really, really showing their teeth and really coming at you, that's going to spook you, right? And so if you're a trainer who spends the majority of your time dealing with puppies, happy-go-lucky dogs, and you happen to get this dog that's pretty willing to bite, I would say trainers like that are sometimes too quick to recommend euthanasia when they are just have lack of experience, because a more experienced trainer could sit in that very comfortably and work the dog through it, really get in the trenches with that dog and not have that same kind of fear response. But I would say that for an experienced trainer, An experienced trainer needs to say, what are your goals as a client? And then we have to say, can we safely reach those goals? Okay. Because
safely.
Yes, safely. So, I mean, if somebody lives on property, they're just a single person, you know, they love their dog and they don't mind if a bite were to ever happen in the future or something like that. Probably any dog, no matter how intense it is, can safely fit within that category. You start adding more family members, you start adding tighter quarters, you start adding different things, and you have to ask yourself, am I arrogant enough to say that the dog will never make a mistake going forward? I'm not. I will never say that. And then I have to ask myself, if the dog were to make a mistake, the worst possible mistake going forward, is there enough safety involved to make sure that no one is seriously harmed? And if I can answer yes to that, then we're golden, no matter how intense the dog is, right? But I'll give you an example. We had, this is where we had to have a difficult conversation with the client. We had, believe it or not, it was a lab. And sometimes labs they're very screwy sometimes when it comes to resource guarding. And you can there's different types of resource guarders, ones who learn that resource guarding is advantageous and other ones who are serious issues from the time that they're very young pups. And so we're dealing with the latter. Very, very intense dog that caused immense harm, multiple hospital stays, multiple reconstructive surgeries over resource guarding. The dog was at the point where it was trapped in the basement. It did not go out to go potty, didn't do anything. That's where they left the dog because people could not handle the dog. So a husband and wife check in for board and train, and they love this dog. They have been severely injured by this dog. They are not giving up on this dog. Okay, great. You understand all the stakes involved, right? Well, let's work together. Okay. So we start working with the dog, and this dog is really, really bad. It's the worst resource guarder I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Really intense, and it was definitely taking 2 or 3 of my staff at a time to really make sure that we were doing this very carefully when we were working with this dog, because everything was on the table. It didn't have to be food. It could be water. It could be, you know, a little feather that blows by. It could be a doorway. It could be, you know, it doesn't matter. Anything could be the resource at any time. And they call us in like a few weeks into the board and train, maybe a month into the board and train or something like that. And we're making progress where we're on track for their goals. And they call up and they say, hey, we have to have my mother move back in. Grandma's moving in. And I'm like, okay, that changes our goals. What is the relationship like between the dog and grandma? Dogs has severely attacked grandma. Grandma needed a hospital stay. And I'm like, okay, I don't like that. We're already changing that. So that made me uncomfortable. And so we switched gears a little bit. We talked to the owners about safety and stuff like that. And we're like, okay, we're going to kind of keep trugging on. Within a day or two, they called and they say, okay, we've got another change to make. My daughter is moving back home with her 1-year-old baby.
Oh, Lord.
And I had to talk to them and I had to say, I think your dog is savable under this context. But if we're bringing this dog into this home where if even the smallest thing goes wrong, we've got a 1-year-old child inside the house, right? There's more risk than reward here, right? And I can't guarantee that there's going to be enough safety to make sure that everything is perfect, right? And I'm not arrogant enough to say, when a dog leaves my program, like they're never ever going to make a mistake. I'm not arrogant enough to say that. And I also have to take into consideration that even if I put 100% in, I don't always know if the owner is going to put 100% in, right? And we're dealing with a dog that is very scary. And it's an older dog. She was 7 at the time. So we've got 7 years of this behavior being patterned very intensely. And so that was a dog we definitely had to have a conversation about. And so they do exist. And then there are some dogs who mentally.
No. Finish that one about the lab. What was the end result?
They did wind up putting her down. They didn't bring her back into that. Yeah. They made that decision on their own, but we were prepared to have that conversation with them. We did talk to them that safety, you know, we can't guarantee that now, right? We can't guarantee that your family is going to remain safe. When it was just the 2 of you, great. We can work with that, but now we're there's too many things that can go wrong. A door can be left open, right? Somebody's not paying attention. Mom is sick today, or, you know, who knows what. There's just too many little things. And then there's a baby in the house, right? Which just makes you uncomfortable. But I've had other families with dogs just as intense who had children who came up with phenomenal ways of making sure that nothing ever happened. And we hear from them years later. Dogs doing great, kids are doing great. And they have come up with ways that there was no option for a safety lapse with the way that they set things up. So, I mean, there are solutions out there, but you have to work through that with the client. And if the solution can't be reached, then we do need to talk about that ugly word of euthanasia. But I think it's significantly over recommended. I've only recommended it to 3 dogs in the thousands that I've trained. Okay, so I think it's significantly over recommended, and we can do a whole lot to prepare the family and the dog for a much better life.
That's true. I appreciate that. Listen, we can talk for another hour, but we both have things to do. I want to say, first of all, I want to thank Stephanie for coming on to the show. This has been a pleasure. This has been an honor for me. I've been very, very filled with glee trying to get to this point. So I want to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a really good time.
And guys, if you guys want to learn more about Stephanie's program, the Method K9, you can follow her on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You're probably on TikTok as well, aren't you?
We are, yeah.
Okay, TikTok.
Yeah.
You ought to get. Are you on is it Spotify?
Nope, we're not on there.
Okay, get the podcast cracking on
Man, come on.
The verbal part. The verbal part, you know, the verbal. People, the truck drivers want to listen.
I hate hearing my own voice. Just to sit there and
right?
record myself, man, it would drive myself nuts.
I want to say, guys, thanks for coming out today on a Saturday. I know it's 6:20 Pacific Standard Time. However you may be listening, however you might be listening to us, I want to appreciate you. And listen, my exit video.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
And however, guys, I always tell you guys at the end of every podcast, every short sitcom, whatever I'll be doing, I said, stay resilient, but be responsible. And don't ever forget to take care of your dogs. All right? Until then, take care.